Call to order the regular board meeting for the town of Aberdeen, October 27th, 2025, and we're glad that you are here if you have business with the town or just visiting or wanting to see what we do. Also, those that may be at home watching or listening, we welcome you likewise. There are agendas on the table when you came in if you would like an agenda. If you would like to speak on one of the items tonight, it says request to speak. They're also on the front table when you came in. If you would fill one out and give it to the clerk so we would know who you are, and we would appreciate that. And if you have your agenda, you'll notice we have a call to order, and then the A is Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would join me. Thank you. So we will close out number 1 and go to number 2, which is setting of the agenda.
No changes, Mayor.
No changes.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as written.
I second.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Close out 2. We'll go to number 3, consent agenda. All items listed below considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held except on request by a member of the Board of Commissioners. A, consider approval of minutes of regular board meeting of September 22nd, 2025, and work session on October 13th, 2025. B, consider approval of agreement with Central Pines Regional Council to conduct a comparable market pay study in the amount of $5,100. C, consider approval of encroachment agreement as requested by Ripple Fiber for the installation of an optic line terminal cabinet.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Close out 3. We'll go down to number 4, informal discussion and public comment. And if you are looking at your agenda, there's 2 proclamations, and then at the bottom it says C, other public comments. So we will start with the A, which is National Family Literacy Day Proclamation. And I have it right here. I don't know if you'll be able to hear me, but I'm going to read this. Proclamation, National Family Literacy Day. Whereas National Family Literacy Day established by the 103rd Congress in 1894 and now marking its 31st anniversary on November 1, 2025, highlights the importance of reading and learning for the entire family and emphasizes the impact that parents have on their child's learning. And whereas this day is celebrated across America each year and focuses on special activities and events that showcase the importance of family literacy programs that empower families and build a nation of readers. And whereas literacy programs across the United States will observe National Family Literacy Day by holding read-a-thons, book drives, workshops, and family activities in schools, libraries, and community centers to encourage literacy. And whereas as many as 1 in 6 adults struggle with reading and writing, and by learning to read, individuals can gain self-respect and confidence to strive towards goals that otherwise would not be achieved. And whereas the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children and adults. And whereas education being one of the cornerstones of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is committed to increasing literacy by promoting and supporting literacy programs. Now, therefore, I, Robert A. Farrell, by virtue of authority invested in me as mayor of the town of Aberdeen, do hereby proclaim November 1 as National Family Literacy Day in the town of Aberdeen, North Carolina, to underscore the importance of literacy, celebrate the joy of reading, encourage residents to promote literacy by reading together as a family, to extend deep appreciation to our local librarians, educators, and literacy service providers for their tireless efforts to strengthen the literacy of our children and our community. And witness therefore, I hereunto put my hand and cause the seal of the town of Aberdeen to be affixed this 27th day of October 2025. So that's that one. And to tie in with that, the town of Aberdeen, November, the library, we got a time on the new library? January, excuse me.
But construction will be finished in late November.
Aberdeen will have a new public library on the other side of the tracks, beside the A&R building. If you have not ridden by to see what we've done over there, we've done a lot of work on that building with a lot of public support, donations, and a lot of hard work. We will have a new public library. The one that we have now, the Page Library over here, was opened in 1907 or 1987. I think it's 1907. And it's 118 years old, and it's about time we have a larger library in this town. So this goes hand in hand with it. So that's the first one. The second one, get this up here. Proclamation National American Indian Heritage Month. Whereas the history and culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and where the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, whereas the customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of our rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded in Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designated the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, historical activities have been planned. Now therefore, I, Robert A. Farrell, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of town of Aberdeen, do hereby proclaim November as National American Indian Heritage Month in the town of Aberdeen, North Carolina, and urge all citizens to observe this month and approve appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness therefore, I have unto set my hand and cause the seal of town of Aberdeen, North Carolina, to be affixed 27th day of October 2025. So there's the other. And I think I have someone here tonight. Yes, ma'am. You would like to come up? Yes, ma'am. If you'll tell us your name at the speaker, at the microphone, excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Marcia Jacobs. I am the regent of the Alphamore chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. On behalf of our chapter, I want to extend our deepest gratitude for your continued support and partnership. Your commitment to education, history, and community engagement is what makes Aberdeen such a special place that residents call home. Tonight it is my honor to be presented with the two proclamations that reflect our shared values and dedication to awareness and education. The first recognizes the month of November as Literacy Promotion Month, a time to celebrate the power of reading and the importance of lifelong learning. The second honors November as American Indian Heritage Month, acknowledging the rich history, culture, and contributions of Indigenous people to our nation's story. These proclamations are more than symbolic. They are a call to action. As part of the DAR's mission of historic preservation and education, we aim to bring greater awareness to these causes throughout the town of Aberdeen and surrounding communities and the citizens of Moore County. Whether it's through local programs, school partnerships, or public events, we believe that promoting literacy and honoring Native American heritage strengthens the fabric of our home. Thank you again for standing with us in this mission. Together we are preserving the past, educating the present, and inspiring the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And is it possible to get a picture with everybody, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We come out there. Got everybody? Got it? Good, good. Oh, sure, thank you. We've got two educators on the board tonight, and Ms. Whitmer worked with education also, sometime working with people.
Yes.
And I can tell you, having been a 30-plus year public North Carolina school teacher, we have another one right over here,
41.
41, you beat me.
I'm still working.
Reading means everything to school students, and we saw 'em, you saw 'em, coming into school, have never read a word. And right off the bat, they're behind. So this reading literacy is so important. Children do not succeed if they don't read. And they just don't, they're not gonna make it. I taught high school for many, many years, and it would hurt me to see a young man or a young woman turn 16, and the next time you see them, they're heading out the door. They've quit. They've given up. They cannot succeed because they couldn't read, or couldn't read to understand what they were reading. And you saw that also, right?
Still do.
Still do. Yeah,
Mhm.
she's still doing it. So this proclamation really came home to me, and we need to take that seriously. So that was my little talk about those proclamations.
Yeah, we have to make sure that we have to make sure that each year we recognize it. We have to remember that.
Yes,
Oh,
I agree. I
And I
agree.
like the fact that it's family literacy because for the last 10 years before I retired from full-time teaching, I worked with the 4-year-old program with the public school, and we did a lot of interventions with families because sometimes that's where the gap is. Kids come to school without the parent support. So I like the fact this is not just a literacy month, but it's family literacy.
Yes, I do too also. We're down to number C, which is other public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment to the board while we're here? If you are, you come up to the microphone and let us know what you want to talk about. We're open. Anybody? All right, I'm gonna close out C, but before I do, I'm gonna give a public service announcement. I hope everyone that's in a municipality in Moore County takes the opportunity a week from tomorrow to go vote for the candidate of your choice. Vote for someone that represents you and your ideas and represents the town you live in, because not everybody in here lives in Aberdeen. But I think just about every town in Moore County this next Tuesday has an election. So please take the opportunity to cast your vote and go out and support those candidates that you want to be in office. Thank you. So I'll close out C. And that was 4. We're closing out 4. All right, let's go to the next page. 5, Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. You've got your written report on your desk, and you've got the standard department by department numbers and statistics that we provide you each month. So if you have any questions about those, please, I think all department heads are here. Please let me know. Other items, just miscellaneous that I like to keep the board abreast of. One is Public Works Department is working on 2 reports. You know, we've talked about these a little bit, but I know Joe is working to have these done by the end of the year. One with the help of LKC Engineering, which is kind of an update on just water and sewer capacity. We look at that. We try to make sure that we have tabs on the growth and development, and the capacity of water and sewer. We're in good shape. We have that. We update it, every time we have a new development approval. And then at the end of the year or every year and a half or so, we try to kind of just go back, let the local engineering firm who monitors our system take a look at it, make sure we're on track, and make sure there's been nothing missed. And also, it will include where we are, but also where we're going, in an update of, we've talked many times here about looking for new wells. And so we got a couple of those that we're getting the permission from the state to start doing the testing on and to move forward to actually add to our water supply. So again, I just wanted to keep talking about that because it's important. So that's the water and sewer capacity. The other study, which is a little bit more daunting in a lot of ways, is just the stormwater flow. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a lot of bad and there's a lot of ugly. We've seen increased rainfall. Some of these horrific rainfalls that just are unprecedented in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, there's virtually no system that's going to control those, at least during the event. It's a matter of how much does the system recover after the event and how quickly. So to build for those kind of rainfalls would be really impossible to build with any kind of restraint monetarily. You couldn't do it. No town could do it. So we're trying to see what we can do, what is financially feasible to conduct, and are there any shortcuts, things we can do with an extra connection with a stormwater ditch or swell here and there, and then some other bigger projects, and which ones will serve the most homes and the most businesses to relieve them from pressure. That's another report Joe and his staff are working on. Hopefully to have something by either the December meeting or kick it off with the January meeting, probably at a work session. It might be a better environment just to have that for questions and see where we are. So I want to make sure you're aware that we're working on those. I know we all get a lot of questions about the latest rainfall, and Mayor, you've been around for a long time in this. I mean, there's been nothing like this the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, some of these events, and just to see where the water is, that's not been over the last 20 or 30 years after just a rainfall. We're not talking about a tropical storm, but just a substantial rainfall is it's becoming, again, a tough task to manage, but we're going to do our best. Other items. So, let's see. Oh, on the FEMA claim, there was an item, or there's an item on the agenda later today. So the Assistant Town Manager, Chief Richardson, he's been working hard with FEMA. There's another pretty big meeting this Friday in town with the FEMA representative to go through kind of item by item, drive around, take a look at the facility again. So the process has moved from FEMA to the state, and they both not authorized or approved, but they've kind of said that the claims are credible, valid, and now they're going to go and look at them and see, are the amounts right? Does it seem feasible for them to do and handle? And just make sure they qualify. So this will be probably our continuing representative that we'll have for some time during the rest of this course. Again, there's really no timeline. I think we'll know a little bit more by the end of the day, Friday or Monday, about yes, no, this looks good, maybe this one doesn't look as good on the items that we've talked about in the past. So I think with that, we'll give you a list, and you've seen the list already, but we've tweaked it a little bit to get more accurate numbers with some help from our engineer to kind of see where we are. Right now, roughly speaking, I mean, we're at basically $2.3 million in total claims for items, everything from water, sewer lines, to the wooden bridge at the park, to the parking lot that we've already resurfaced, at the main park. Those items that you've already heard some about. So again, that's moving along. Just want to make sure you know that. And so obviously, we need the help. We came out of pocket to fix that parking lot. That was over $100,000. And some other items, water and sewer lines. So we've already come out of pocket. So those are easy to value. And some other ones where we fixed it for the time being, but it's not really the complete fix. And that's where you get into substantially higher dollars to fix a whole line that's been tweaked. Yeah, Joe and his crew have been able to put it back together for use, but to really repair it, some of these are over water that are just expensive repairs. So again, we're working on those, and we'll give you a little bit more detailed report once we've kind of heard back from FEMA or had that visit this Friday. So the new library, I know, Mayor, you've already referenced it a little bit. So again, I'm just going to say we're in good shape. I keep having to tell Chief Richardson, don't say it's gonna be done by this date, because as soon as he says that, there's gonna be a 30-page punch list that we're having to do other things. But the good news is, I've got some dates for you, which is, basically, it's in let's see if it's in that report. I've got some dates for proposed, let's see. Yeah, there are. It's in another item. Well, I'll just get to it now. Some dates for the opening. So we think we'll be through CO'd with the building sometime in November. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable in saying that. So, and there has been hired by the town and by the county, a new full-time person. I think she'll be a great employee, a great addition. So she started, or will start, I think the next week, but she's got to go through a 30-day mandatory training up in the county with the regional system to get acclimated to the local system. So she'll be busy for that month. And then we'll have the rest of December, which again it's a tough month during the holidays, to kind of get the building kind of outfitted with furniture. You know, it's one thing to have a CO, it's another thing to have it outfitted with shelves and furniture and books. So there's still some work to be done, but you know, we've been waiting for the construction phase to wrap up. We're very close to that. Then it's more of the furniture and fixtures, have those finalized and get that ready. So if you look at, I'm gonna skip an item or two, but if you look at the item 15 in the written report, you'll see a few dates there. And this has been proposed. I just want you to check your calendars. I put it out in the weekly report last week on Friday. But really, the proposed plan for opening is to have a reception for the donors and those closely involved with the project on Tuesday, January 6th, and then to have an open house, maybe that's what you want to call the grand opening, on Friday, January 9th. It's open to the full public on that Friday, probably afternoon. The specifics aren't nailed down yet, but that was the thought. And then the next day, on Saturday, January 10th, to have a proposed children's event planned to introduce the facility to our younger generation. So it's kind of that week, a big move forward to have it open, and then of course from that time, it'll be open during whatever hours are adopted. But the hours, which I referenced in here a little bit, we want to have the conversation with the staff person, and then the part-time person who's also going to be helping out at that facility, so they can kind of work and see what's a good working time, you know, where they're working their full load of hours. But instead of, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, because I think a lot of people would like to have it open for at least a half a day on Saturday. So maybe it'll be closed for a half a day or all of Monday. We're not really sure. Just going to work that through and bring something back to you. So they've got a little bit of time. I don't presume it'll be open on Sunday, but this is with the full-time library staff, which I think is required to be there when you're going back to the books and the shelves, you know, behind that entryway. So working on that schedule, but we're trying to kind of make it work for everybody's hours, and talk to the new staff people about what's going to work best for everybody. So that's where you're on the library. For any questions, let me know on moving forward with that. But if you have any feedback or any of those days don't work, we'd like to know now, because it's going to be a pretty big production on all three of those events. So we're trying to put it together and make it a good event. And of course, the library group has been a big motivator and is really leading the charge on putting those dates and those events together. On the pickleball courts, Mayor, I think, again, we've talked about this a little bit. So they're paved. And if you remember, there was a curing date for the new asphalt. You can't paint it too early. And then, so we're within that period. And part of the challenge we've learned is really, yeah, maybe it'll be cured here in another week or two on paper, but then you're going to get into some colder weather. And then you have a little challenge in terms of what they call sealing it. That's basically putting the paint on it. So we talked to the vendor, the expert in applying the paint and the seal to the courts, and Philip and the vendor worked through, I think what's a good solution is, so as soon as it dries there, we're going to try to be out there this week. Well, it starts raining again, so here we are, again, waiting for a little more time. It's obviously got to be dry to put the paint down. But what they came up with would be to go ahead and put down one solid coat of green, kind of the typical tennis court green on everything, and then stripe it with lines, all four courts, and just leave that one coat, have the lines for the cold time. And then when it warms up in the spring, add another coat of the green, and then the idea was to have that two-tone color that you see a lot of pickleball courts. They have that kitchen area, they call it, where you can't touch the ball under certain circumstances, kind of in the inner service line. A different color would be a blue color, which you see a lot is a two-tone court. Do that once it warms up and finish the other paint. And then the only thing you're redoing is the striping of the white lines. And they said that that would be, that's pretty easy to do, minimal cost and minimal paint. So if the board's okay with that, we'd like to move forward with that. But that gives us a court to use. Now, we won't have the lighting in place unless we can do it sometime during the winter, during this time now. With the lighting, unlike we saw some pretty high costs, if you recall, at the Sportsplex. Those are expensive per light pole because they're big. This is much, much more manageable. So it's a different cost line. So we're going to have to kind of get that ballpark. We're hoping we can get something before the board during the winter and maybe go ahead and start working on those at some point. But at least if we get the courts open with that initial preliminary coat, there could be some play during daylight hours. And if we can get lights up there sometime before time changes, maybe a little bit of nighttime play also. So that's our plan. If the board's okay with that, we're going to move forward and get that first coat on there. Also, Mayor, on other scheduling events, you have in your materials on your desk, there was a question or two, and so with Philip's help, we put together just a complete holiday event schedule, because I know some have been asking, and there's a lot of things going on. So you've got that in your packet. It's got all the Christmas color and trees and stuff on it to be decorative, so that's on there. It stops at the end of December, so it doesn't include the library events, but we'll add those to get you a complete list. So you've got that also on there. That just gives you kind of a reference sheet so you can keep your calendar straight and go ahead and mark it, because that's it's coming up quick, with Thanksgiving, coming up pretty soon here. And
Thank
then
you.
finally, Mayor, I think that's everything. One more thing, at the end of the meeting tonight, at the end or under other business, I don't want to take up time, while we have other public hearings and things on the agenda tonight. We got a few things we can look at for some finishing touches for this room, to get some input from the board on lighting and some other things. But I've got there's a sheet you also have on your desk, but I wouldn't worry about that too much right now, but we can take a look and have a quick discussion at the end or the close of the meeting tonight, if that's okay with the board.
Any
Yep.
updates on the school, on the old Aberdeen Elementary?
Nothing new that you haven't already heard. You may have seen a sign there. That's really for just looking for tenants and people to use the facility. I mean, there could be a sale of a portion of it to somebody if they're really interested in buying something for an outpost kind of facility. So that's what that's about, basically. So that is the new, hopefully, investor for the project. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Anyone? As was referenced, the new public library, we're all excited to get into that. Now, we're looking at January, which is not that far away. This is going to be a red letter day in Aberdeen to have that new library. Of course, if you grew up in this town, the 900 square foot Page Library was all there was. And of course, when that was built, there probably wasn't 200 or 300 people living in Aberdeen when it was built. Now it's 10,000. And obviously, 900 square foot library doesn't work. So we're really excited about it. I think, 4,000 plus square feet?
Almost 5, right?
Almost 5,000 square feet we're going to be moving into. And it's all modern. Now, the building is old, but it's been meticulously restored. It will look beautiful once you go in to see what it looks like on the inside. So, yeah, it was an old railroad warehouse, believe it or not. And if you go in it today, you won't recognize what it was back in that day. It's absolutely going to be wonderful. So, again, we're looking forward to that in January. So this will be announced. Hope everybody will come down and take a chance to go in and see what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to close out 5. Go to number 6, financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have a very busy agenda tonight, so I'll be as efficient with your time as possible. I have got in front of you a memo, quarter report, and some deposit investment information. Same thing that public and the people in the audience can see on the screen. So we'll first start off with the general fund. Our budget for revenue expenditures through the end of September was $15,617,164. Our year-to-date revenues at the end of September was $6,646,526 and some odd cents. That's a percentage collection of 42.56% year-to-date. Expenditures were $4,360,672. That means we're 27.92% expensed. So at that point, we were basically 15% ahead of revenues over expenses. So everything through the end of September for general fund, net income was $2,285,000. Some highlights of the revenues on the Moore County real and personal property tax collections went 71.05% of budget, which is $4,818,577. As of today, we're 75.86% or $5,144,000. The 2025 motor vehicle tax revenues is 19.15% of budget as of the end of September. As of today, it's 28.62% or $124,951. The fire real and personal property tax revenues were 37.82% of revenues or $117,255. Today, it's 61.74% or $191,398. Garbage fee revenues were at 27.99% of budget, or $243,813 collected. As of today, it's 37.39%, or $325,689 collected. Building permit revenues collected was 29.49% of budget, $124,429. Today, it's 36.93%, or $155,848. ABC net revenues was 19.86% of budget, or $42,705 collected. As of today, it's 34.17%, or $73,469. Sales tax revenues at the end of September was 9.47% collected, a budget of $355,123. As a reminder, remember that we start collecting July and September. That's how the state provides it. So as of today, we have obviously 2 months now with 18.48% or $693,290.58. Utility franchise fees collected were at 23.63% of budget of $140,862. There's no change after today. We received that from the state on a quarterly basis. And power bill revenues were at 47% of budget of $183,525. No change there. We'll get another payment at the end of December or in January for that one. So overall, you'll see that growth is continuing in Aberdeen. Any questions on the general fund? Water and sewer fund, budget was $6,110,974. The year-to-date revenues were $1,748,668, or 28.62% collections. Expenditures were at $1,432,306. That's 23.44% money expensed of budget. So we are a net income there of $316,362. And I've said this before, since we've changed from bi-monthly to monthly collections, you'll see a more steady income here. So I just want to make sure I make that point again. Some highlights that we have for the revenues for water and sewer. System development fees were at 38.73% budget, or $231,285. As for today, at 46.15%, or $275,609. Water and sewer revenues were 28.08% of budget, or $1,199,570. As of today, it's 36.05%, $1,539,822. Water and sewer tap revenues were at 24.71% of budget, or $43,000. Today, it's 33.03%, of $57,467. and bulk water from Moore County revenue were 45.42% in September, or 202,138 a budget. As of today, it's 50.96%, or $226,776 collect. So again, water and sewer continue to grow as well. So overall, you'll see our revenues for the two operating funds, $8,395,195. Expenses, $5,792,979. So a net income for the two operating funds, $2,602,216. But what's impressive about this, your revenues are ahead of your expenses. That's what I like to look at. Next item is on page 2 and 3, and I'm gonna summarize these, because we have 8 capital project funds, and they're moving every day with different various things. From the old Aberdeen Elementary School to the NCDOT project. And our capital project funds are basically $5,269,000 for the total of the 8 funds. And you'll see that we've got about $4,014,000 in revenues, $4,740,000 in expenses. And as a reminder, and to the audience, people at home, project funds are multi-year, so it's okay to have the negative numbers when you got different grants and everything coming in over different times. Any questions on this part of the report? Or the next report item is the 811 by 17 piece of paper that's multicolored. And we'll focus on the very top half. Here, this is the same information I just talked about, but in a little bit more detail, broken down by salary and benefits, general operating expenditures, capital outlay, and debt service for current year and last fiscal year at the same time period. And you'll see that prior year we're at 25.47% expenditures year to date. This year we're 27.92%, and that's basically attributed to usually we encumber money. Encumbrance means it feels like an expense, but it's not expensive, but you still have to account for it. So I count those encumbrance numbers in here. So by the end of the year, some projects do not happen. They go off spreadsheet at a time. So, and then also, you take a look at this year's general fund with 27.92%, you'll see the various allotments there. And in the water sewer, same thing, salary benefits, general operating expenses, capital outlay, and debt service for all those. And the expenditures for the last year is 21.11%, this year's 23.44%. And I want to remind you, our water and sewer fund has no debt. No debt service at all. Also, if you take to the right, starting with the blue, that's the revenues year to date broken down. But I'd like for you to focus on the 42.56% number there and the 27.92. So basically, we're about 15% ahead again on revenues of expenditures at this point in time. And the water and sewer, which is more level, 28.62% of revenues over 23.44% expenditures. That's all I was going to talk about on the general fund and water and sewer. And then the bottom half of the first page, as well as the second page, is again the capital project funds, more in the more detailed line items and so forth. I'm not going to go over those because we'd be here all night. Also, the last piece of paper is our deposits and investments that we have. Don't see it all. Just talk about it. So what you have is a comparison from last September of 24 and September of 25. And broken down by account balance, where they're located at, and what type of account they're in. And the right side is each bank they're in. But the number you need to focus on are the two and each half bottom number. We're our deposit and investments from, compared to last year, same time, is $3,325,000 more than we had last year this time. And that will be attributed to a couple of different things. You've got a lot of building going on, real estate, property taxes that we receive, as well as last year with some of the capital projects we budgeted did not happen. So we had more money that flows into fund balance. So that's why really, that's a couple of different reasons that it would have gone up that much. So we have a total of $18,834,000 in investments and deposits at the end of September. Any questions? Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Butch.
Good report, thank you. All right, I'll close out number 6 and go to number 7, which is public hearings and new business. And we'll start with A, voluntary annexation, AN 25-02, submitted by Gordon Wellborn heirs for plus or minus 35.5 acres located east of US Highway 1551 across from Eflin Road and identified by PID number 000498872.
Thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me, this is a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Board. This item is very closely related to the next item on the agenda, which is a request to apply a zoning to this property. They go in this sequence because this particular property is not in Aberdeen's jurisdiction, not in our corporate jurisdiction or our ETJ, and to annex it and not apply zoning category to it leaves it more vulnerable. So they're very closely related, but this one needs to go first because we can't apply zoning to a property that's not in our jurisdiction. So rather briefly, and I'll just mention that Bob Kuntz is here this evening representing the request. This is a 35.5-acre property that is just south of Legacy Lakes and is contiguous with the border of Legacy Lakes, which is, of course, in the town's jurisdiction, so it's a contiguous annexation request. And Mr. Kuntz can answer any specific questions about the property owners or any relevant information regarding the request. The property is in Moore County's jurisdiction and is currently zoned rural agricultural. This is a map that we create for the county and other entities when an annexation is approved, so it's clear what parcel is being annexed. And of course, you see in the dashed line there near the bottom is this 35.5-acre parcel, and just off of 15501. And I think this aerial image maybe gives a little bit more context to what's around it. And that shaded area just to the north is the layer, the GIS layer that the county gives us that represents Aberdeen's jurisdictional boundary. So that's Legacy Lakes to the north. Everything else around this property is in Moore County. And then the applicant did provide a survey of the property, which is needed for determining exactly what property is being annexed. Statutes do require a public hearing for an annexation request, and our UDO also does. And there are some standards listed in the UDO that are associated with a voluntary annexation that we'll go through briefly on the next slides, and with the intention that the board consider these before they render a decision on the request. And these are the first 3 of those standards. One is a very simple one, that the application or the petition to annex bear the signatures of the landowners, and the petition does bear those signatures. The second one is that the area to be annexed, can it be adequately served by the same municipal services provided within the town's corporate limits? The Public Works Director has advised that those services are available. We are beginning some new processes, and Town Manager touched on this earlier, where we're looking at capacity issues during plan review when projects come to us. And we have a consulting engineering firm that has done some of these capacity studies for us. And when we have a new proposal go through the TRC, that property will be plugged into the model to ensure that we have adequate capacity. And then the third one being that debt obligations from serving the property would not exceed the anticipated revenues to the town, and we can confirm that it would not. And then lastly, that the public health, safety, and welfare of town residents and residents of the lands proposed for the annexation will be served by the annexation. And I'll go through that a little bit more really in the next item, which is the rezoning. But based on this standard and the understanding that staff has of this request, we have no reason to believe that the health, safety, and welfare would be threatened by the annexation of the property. I'm happy to take any questions. This is a very simple slideshow. Mr. Kuntz here is also here to take any questions that you may have or to add anything that I may have missed in this presentation.
Mr. Coons?
On that map, go back, is that a lake? Is that part of, at the very end of that property?
Yeah, there are wetlands.
Wetlands, that
and
was my
you'll-
question. How much wetlands is
And you'll-
going
yeah.
to be guarded?
And I have a green growth toolbox assessment in the rezoning request. I don't know the exact acreage of the wetlands area. The expectation would be that those would be preserved in any development that occurs. And the survey shows that also, and this was provided by the applicant, that there are wetlands on the far eastern end of this property.
Is this supposed to be a conservation subdivision?
That'll come in the next one.
Thank you.
That won't be part
So
of this.
this is simply about whether the property should be
Annexation.
brought into Aberdeen's jurisdiction or not. There are a great deal more detail that will come during the rezoning presentation, and but simply stated, we have been told by the applicant that that's their intent, and that would certainly preserve those wetlands and any other sensitive environmental elements on the property.
Mr. Coons?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I'm Bob Coons with Coons Jones Design plus V3. We had a little change to our name recently. But I'm here this evening representing the applicant, and as Pam mentioned, this is a straightforward annexation request. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on this, and I'll be speaking in addition on the next item as well.
Any questions? We have him here. Any
Thank you.
questions? Thank you. It's still a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? It is a public hearing. Someone that would like to come up to the microphone and speak about this annexation? Anyone? All right. I can close the public hearing. Is that right? On that part of it. And then we'll go to 2, consider approval of an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Aberdeen, North Carolina for annexation number 25-02. There's the motions on the screen.
I'll make
I make a motion that we deny the voluntary annexation petition, AN 2502.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to deny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's 2 votes. Fails for the 3rd vote.
Mayor, you should ask for opposed.
To what?
You should ask for opposed also.
Yeah, opposed, I'm sorry.
Aye.
I oppose what they're speaking about.
Wait, wait a minute now.
Pardon me? No, I oppose, I don't want it to be, I think it should be annexed.
Oh, okay.
I
All
think
right.
it would be good for the town.
All right, so that's two.
And we've already voted, so.
Yeah, it's,
It's
what's
there,
your
but
vote?
it fails, but you can't, I mean,
Yeah, you, okay, so it failed by one vote. It's 2 to 3.
all right, so now, Mayor, you'd need a motion, somebody need to make a motion, in the affirmative to annex it.
Can I just ask, no, you see something? I understood why, I thought it would pass, right?
So we have 3 votes for the annexation?
3, 4, and 2 opposed.
Well,
No, there
3
hasn't been a
opposed to
motion
the
approve
annexation.
it yet.
No, but I didn't know if
Your,
this,
your motion failed, 2
right.
to 3.
Right, but we were waiting on a vote from Commissioner Elise Goodwin
She voted in affirmative.
in favor of annexation,
No, against it,
against it.
yeah.
Okay.
2
Against
were, there was a motion, a second, 2 were in favor of it.
The two people.
You're voting in favor of Tim and,
No, she, no.
We're voting to approve the volunteer annexation petition.
Okay.
So we're still back to two noes and 3 yeas, is that right?
Yeah.
2, there were 2 votes to annex it, and there were 3 against the annexation, so the
Mm-mm,
motion
that's-
failed.
no, she made a motion to not annex it with a second from
Right.
Commissioner Hams.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
yeah, I'm
it's
sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, 2 votes to not annex it.
2 ayes and 3 nays.
Deny.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So now you would need a motion to annex it, if
To
that's,
approve the annexation.
Well, I'll make a motion to annex the property.
To the motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Discussion. This is to annex it, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I voted aye.
You did vote aye?
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's 4 to 1.
it's 4 to 1, so that carries.
so 4 to 1, it's annexed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
just want to be clear on the record for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, so now, I can close that out, and we'll go to B, zoning map amendment, ZA 2503, submitted by Drew Bass on behalf of McKee Homes for .30, plus or minus 35.5 acres located east of US Highway 15501 across from Heflin Road, and identified as PID 000497872. The requested zoning change to be property is from rural agriculture.
Thank you,
And
Mayor.
this is another public hearing.
Correct. And closely associated with the last public hearing, but you'll certainly see more detail on this because it's a more complex issue, which is a zoning map amendment with the property being annexed by the town, needs its zoning designation. It can no longer serve under the rural agricultural zoning designation applied by Moore County. Same property that we just discussed, so 35 and a half acres more or less, and want to go through these slides relatively quickly, but happy to slow down or stop with any questions that come in. This is just a different map that shows the location of the property and its proximity to Aberdeen's jurisdiction, which this map will now be revised based on the annexation, and want to just go through, because this is rezoning and refers to, or closely considers the adjacent uses, the adjacent zonings, and the proposed zoning for the property, which is R20, which is the same zoning designation that is applied to the properties just to the north. And as you see, that's Legacy Lakes, which is both a golf course and single-family residential development, lots ranging between 0.17 acres to over a half acre, and that's to the north. The other 3 boundaries are Moore County jurisdiction, and they all are are zoned rural agricultural, as this property is or was, and much of that land is vacant. You'll see smaller lots on the west side of 15501 in this image that are utilized for single-family homes. And this is sort of just a zoomed-out aerial image that shows the relationship of the property and properties nearby to the county boundary line. And then zooming in again, and this is possibly the same image that you just saw in the annexation, or very close to it, as is this next one, which is the survey that was provided, which would also very distinctly designate what area the new zoning category would apply to. Have some other images, and then we'll get into the text, or just this one image really that shows the R20 zoning that's being requested in this green, and really represents the vast majority not only of this part of Aberdeen, but it is the predominant zoning category throughout Aberdeen's jurisdiction. There's a little bit of office and institutional just on, and that's that blue that's shown on the west side of 15501, and some light industrial to the north, and some agricultural sort of to the northeast of Legacy Lakes. The requested zoning district is R20. It is described in the UDO as being established to accommodate principally single-family detached dwellings developed at a density of 20,000 square feet per lot, and development served by public water and sewer. We do want to note that staff has had discussions with the applicant about the possibility of the site being developed as a conservation subdivision. Staff supports this approach. As we've seen in previous slides and in the discussion, there are some sensitive areas on this site, including wetlands, and this would be the best avenue for preserving those areas. The conservation subdivision option is something that is available to all properties in the R20, R10, and R15 zoning districts, and would be reviewed in more detail by the technical review committee when an actual proposal comes to us for developing the property. The Legacy Lakes development, which is also R20, was approved years ago under a now defunct conditional use permit process. We don't use that anymore. Nobody in the state does. It's been removed from the options for zoning property by the state legislature. But because it was approved then, it continues to be developed under that approval. And there are some, the lots in Legacy Lakes weren't designated with a minimum lot size, as we often see for zoning districts. They were designated with a minimum lot width, which was 50 foot wide was the minimum, and we're seeing some of those parcels, especially in the newer phases, in the 7,600 square foot range for the lots. This slide, and I can zoom in on this if it's needed to be viewed clearly. We usually take a look at the permitted uses in the existing zoning district, which you see on this far right column, and the proposed zoning district, which is the R20 column. And I would just draw your eye especially to those categories where there's a use that is available now to the property, which is in green, and those that would no longer be available under the R20 zoning. And those uses include such uses as debris management facilities, manufactured home park, shooting range, indoor or outdoor, warehousing or distribution center, flea markets, convenience stores, animal shelters, freight terminals, a debris management facility, which is not a category that we have identical in our own table of uses, but in Moore County, it's described as a facility that processes non-toxic waste and mining and quarry operations. All of those are available to the property now under some type of approval process. In some cases where you just see a simple yes here, it's a zoning by right. In other cases, it might either be approved under a special use permit application or a conditional zoning application. Yes, ma'am.
What about this mausoleum and the cemetery, that stuff?
Yes, cemeteries, columbariums, and mausoleums are allowed as a use by right in all of Aberdeen's zoning district. This is not a, this would just be an above-ground grave, grave site. And it's also allowed in the county as with a special use permit. So the first part of the table shows that there are some categories that are available currently and would still be available, and that includes single-family dwellings, churches, cemeteries, daycares, schools, under some type of approval process. And then you'll see a few categories that aren't allowed now and won't be allowed should this rezoning be approved. I think the most, I suppose, important rows in this table are the ones where certain uses that are allowed now would be no longer allowed if the rezoning were approved, and that's towards the bottom of the table.
But there's no, crematory?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for making that distinction. That was the word that I was thinking of but couldn't place.
Is that the bottom of the chart, or is it go farther?
That's the bottom of the chart. When I pull these charts together, of course, it doesn't pull every use out of our use table. In this case, it pulls almost all of the ones where this use would be allowed under R20, or where these uses would be allowed. We try to give you a sense of, what's not changing if the zoning is approved and what would change if the zoning was approved. Those uses that might be either the most impactful or just the most common.
The property across from this proposed property, where Heflin Road is, where there's small homes in there, that's in the county, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's not in Aberdeen.
That's correct.
So everything west of 1551 going south is basically in the county,
In the county.
except where Pine Bluff Lake Road is,
Yes.
where the school is.
Yes, there are some.
From the school south, on the right side going south is all county.
If you're going south, yes. There are some properties in that vicinity that are Pine Bluff or Pine Bluff ETJ, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Procedural information, these are the things that we look at every time we have a rezoning request. Really just some of this I've already mentioned, but we did put this in front of the planning board in June, and they made a recommendation for approval by unanimous vote. Did want to mention that, a very rough calculation of what might be allowed if the lots were 20,000 square feet would be possibly 56 lots, somewhere in that range. Should the developer choose to pursue the conservation subdivision, he would be required to save at least 30%, set aside at least 30% of the property for open space, and he could potentially get additional lots by doing that because the lots would be smaller. The applicant did hold a citizen information meeting. That is required anytime a zoning request is for a more intense district than the current zoning. Don't know that that really applies in this case because it's really a less intense district than some of the uses that you saw earlier, but to err on the side of caution, they elected to do this, and certainly Mr. Kuntz can speak in more detail to this if needed. The report that's required to come to the planning department after these meetings advised that no opposition was expressed, and that report was included in your packet.
And can I ask a question? And
Yes.
so, the people that were invited only had to be a certain number of people, correct? And they had to be in the area, because on the list that I saw, it looked as if only people from Pine Bluff attended that meeting, not Aberdeen. That's where they listed their towns.
The attendees and of course who was sent notice are not necessarily the same. There were 3 people that signed in on the sign-in sheet, and then the people who were noticed included Aberdeen residents, but they didn't attend.
So Aberdeen residents were invited to this meeting, as you're
Yes,
saying?
Yes. So the 2 primary questions for the board to consider when looking at rezoning requests, one is consistency with adopted plans, and the second one is reasonableness and public interest. And the adopted plan that really rules in these cases is the Comprehensive Land Development Plan. This property does not show on the map, which is really on this slide, because the plan didn't consider properties outside of Aberdeen's jurisdiction. But it does show, this is the future land use map that's associated with that plan, and it does show low-density residential and agricultural conservation, where you see the green and the yellow to the north. This request would be an extension of those categories. This just has a little bit more description about this. Perhaps this last paragraph is most relevant. The land use plan does describe low-density residential as accommodating a compatible mixture of single-family dwellings, open spaces, and agricultural uses at lower densities of approximately 2 dwelling units or fewer per acre. Compatible zoning districts include the R20, which is the request here, and also the category that's applied to the adjacent properties to the north. And the highest lot count expectation for this property, this is an estimate, of course, if a conservation subdivision proposal is pursued, would be around 76 single-family units, which is in keeping with the 2 dwelling units per acre standard, with the property being 35.5 acres. We also look at, especially in cases where we don't have clear guidance from a future land use map, we look at some of the standards that are included in the land use plan itself, objectives and strategies. I do not intend to read all of these to you. They were in the staff report. I can certainly stop on any that you would like to discuss. We do believe that especially strategy 2.01 to protect flight corridor, that we don't have any evidence that there's any activity on this property. I'll show you the green growth toolbox in a moment. But especially so we require 15% open space just as a R20 zoning. If this does come to a conservation subdivision request, then it's 30% plus.
What is the average lot size of the existing legacy lakes?
Well, I don't know the average. The average is probably in the 10 to 15,000 square foot range, and that's just really rough. There are some lots that are as small as 7,600 square feet in Legacy, and those aren't just anomalies. That seems to be the development pattern, especially in the newer sections of Legacy. The next one is to support infill development within Moore County and to not extend and promote growth into Hope County, and this proposal does provide an alternative to extending growth into Hope County. Not that Aberdeen necessarily has control over that. We don't have jurisdiction in Hope County, but we wanted to mention this as being one of the strategies in the land development plan. Conserve and protect important natural resource values in the town of Aberdeen jurisdiction, and that's where the Green Growth Toolbox comes in. We've been using this pretty consistently when reviewing proposals. These are the layers that come up, and as you see, all of that blue that's on the eastern end of the property represents floodplain and wetlands. The swath that's going through the center is a somewhat poorly defined, I think is the best way I can say it, other potential habitat corridors. And I have dived deep into the Green Growth Toolbox data, and they really don't provide much guidance for this. Sometimes it's upland habitat that it's referring to, and it just says that there's potential for a wildlife corridor here, but it's not been identified as such.
It's all wooded though, correct? That whole piece of property is wooded,
I believe that's true, yes.
so there would be habitats in there naturally, even if we're not sure what's in there.
Another strategy in the land use plan is the conservation subdivision design. Planned unit development and cluster development shall focus on providing equity and balancing development interests with resource protection, shall not be used to increase lot yield while impacting environmental resources. So we don't yet know if this will be a conservation subdivision. Regardless, the wetlands will be preserved. We have other developments in Aberdeen, and that's one of the first things that we identify is where are the wetlands and how will the development impact those. And the state helps us a great deal with that as well, with their regulations. Another strategy to discourage objections from adjoining low-density property owners, increase the suggestion or recommendation is to increase the perimeter buffer around conservation subdivisions by 1 foot for each reduction in setback. And of course, we can explore this. The TRC will look at this and encourage the developer to do just that should a conservation subdivision come to us for review. Discourage the use of septic systems and provide for connection to public sewer. And we do know that that is available. As a matter of fact, Legacy Lakes sewer system and then sewer to the west of 15501 is available in the area. And we've done a cursory look at this with the Public Works Department. We know that further analysis for capacity will be required, and that's what we'll do for any project that comes to us. But the system is there and available. And this one we always include, this last one, ensure that new growth areas include opportunities for recreation. At the very least, 15% would be required under the R20 zoning, and 30% or more if it is approved as a conservation subdivision.
Well, heck, they already got a whole golf course out there.
Off-site.
Close enough.
Is, what percentage of that 35.5 acres can be determined to be wetlands?
I don't think I have those numbers. Exactly how much is there. As I said, even if it's not, doesn't come to us as a conservation subdivision, wetlands are really top of the list for preservation in their state regulations that we have to abide by in that approval. As a conservation subdivision, you may recall that we've had another project that wished to pursue a conservation subdivision, and we looked at the list of environmental items that need to be considered when they're designating the conservation area, and wetlands was very high on that list as well.
Who determines the wetlands?
It is surveyed, a jurisdictional survey is either done by the Army Corps of Engineers or by a private consultant, and then run through the Army Corps of Engineers for verification.
So the applicant would have to produce that?
Absolutely.
So then their goal of 76 units may be reduced based on that report, because they're basing 67 units on 35 acres or less. I mean, there's a total of 35 acres there,
Right,
but
right.
portion of that may be wetlands, as the mayor's saying, so that's just a ballpark figure of 76 units they plan to build.
That would be the most that they could potentially get, and it is a ballpark figure. I don't see it being more if there are more restricted areas where development is restricted, such as the wetlands. It could potentially be less.
Right.
Does this fall under the woodpecker rule?
Well, it would be looked at, and that's another one of the conservation standards that would be looked at, and it could limit development. But that's also one of the layers that's available to us on the Green Growth Toolbox, and it did not pop up for this property, either active or inactive.
Okay.
You'll see that there are some inactive habitats off-site, foraging areas off-site, but nothing showed up for this property. The reasonableness and public interest standard that you're tasked with looking at in these decisions. First is it reasonable in the public interest, and if not, why? So we go back to the comprehensive plan. There's an implementation section there that guides staff as we look at this, and the following questions are recommended for the deliberation of all zoning requests according to the land use plan. One is, does Aberdeen need more land in the land use requested? I think this comes up every time we have really a rezoning request, or even for staff when we're reviewing subdivision plans. There has been a well-established need for additional housing units in Moore County, and especially in southern Moore County. So need more land in the land use requested. There's certainly a need for additional land to provide housing. Is there other property in town that might be more appropriate for this use? The location and topography of the land, and the fact that there's R20 zoning immediately adjacent to it makes that a reasonable expectation for how this property might be zoned. I mentioned before that it is Aberdeen's predominant residential zoning category, and really our predominant zoning category overall. The rezoning to R20 would represent a consistent residential development pattern when you consider the property to the north. We talked a little bit about this next one earlier, which is it in accordance with the land use plan. Don't have a future land use map, any guidance there in this case because of the property being outside of our jurisdiction, but it is supported by a number of objectives and strategies.
It's outside our jurisdiction. What do you mean by that? We just annexed it, or they did? You mean?
But it was not shown in the future land use map when the comprehensive plan was done in 2019. So that's why we say that we don't have that guidance. So the future land use map, I'll go back to it. This was done in 2019. It was not in our jurisdiction, so it doesn't really show what the expectation is for this property. We did feel that it was reasonable to use the expectations of the property to the north because it's immediately adjacent. Serious impact on traffic circulation, parking space, sewer and water services, and other utilities. We talked a little bit about the utilities a moment ago. The traffic circulation, you know, we have a standard for what, how much daily average anticipated trips will trigger the need for a traffic impact analysis, and it's far less than what DOT's is, and yet it does not meet that threshold for requiring a traffic impact analysis, even at the higher 76 unit potential proposal.
And do you consider the future development that's already proposed and that's out there as well? So like Legacy already has over 700 homes that's gonna be built out. In addition to this, I mean, is that all part of, do you project that in advance, or are you just looking at what's there at the moment?
The development guide simply states that the proposed project needs to meet a threshold of anticipated daily trips in order to trigger a traffic impact analysis. If it does trigger that, then a greater area, a study area, is included in that analysis. But because it doesn't meet that threshold and it's well below it, no analysis is required. And then this next one has to do with will the project result in lessening the enjoyment or use of adjacent properties? I mean, I think it's safe to say that anytime an undeveloped piece of land gets developed, adjoining property owners are going to feel some impacts. That being said, we saw a chart that shows the potential uses for this property now under the current zoning compared to the requested zoning, and staff is certainly willing to state that the impacts would be less than what could potentially be developed there.
Will this development have its own HOA?
We require all
That's what I thought.
subdivisions now to have
So
an
it'll be
HOA.
It would be, yeah, totally separate and self-contained, that development. It will be no way at all connected to Legacy Lakes.
It is not connected to Legacy Lakes. These standards have to do with noise, odors, light, or other unusual disturbances, and I'll still go back to what the potential uses are today compared to what the request is, and that regarding noise and some of these other nuisances, we do have ordinances that can be applied should those issues arise. Spot zoning, we do usually touch on this. Spot zoning is not an illegal way of zoning, but it does need to meet some thresholds when you make these decisions, and we would say that the adjacent property zoning is one of the biggest ones. If you're zoning a piece of property something completely different from the larger area around it, that's when questions might arise. That's not the case here. And just in short, this last paragraph was the statement that was provided in the rezoning application. We do ask for the applicants to provide some statement of reasoning for the request. This first paragraph is just a portion, or I guess a synopsis of staff's analysis that the proposal positions the property for single-family detached residential development in an area bordered by similar uses and where extension of existing infrastructure is possible. And then the application stated that with the proposed annexation of the property into the town of Aberdeen, Aberdeen zoning must be applied to the property. The property is currently within Moore County's jurisdiction and zoned rural agriculture. This zoning map amendment as proposed would apply R20 zoning to the property and allow for single-family development following the R20 and conservation subdivision standards. So I mentioned the citizen information meeting that was held already, and that information was also available in your packet. And I also mentioned that the planning board did make a recommendation for approval of the zoning map amendment request by unanimous vote, and adoption of the statement of land use plan consistency, which is basically a listing of everything I just showed you and that was in in the staff report, the strategies and objectives that are in the land use plan. And it does also mention that there's no designation on the future land use map for this property. And I can take any questions, and Mr. Kuntz is here. He may be able to shed any light or remove any doubts or questions that you have about it.
Excuse me, if this is, if this comes to fruition, the R20 designation would require sidewalks, correct?
Yes,
On
sir.
both sides.
Yes.
All right. Also, this piece of property is a long rectangle. And to have open space, we've run into this before, and I don't want to run into it again. It has to be open space that residents can get to.
Yes.
Now, this is a long rectangle.
Yes.
And if you put a road through it, I mean, you obviously have to put a road into it. How, that would come back to you as far as the open space, or how they can facilitate people getting to it?
They would need to show the areas and the acreages of the open space areas on the preliminary plat that's reviewed by the Technical Review Committee. And one of the things that we do is ensure that it meets all of the provisions of the UDO. And you're absolutely correct that there are some provisions in there that help to ensure that open space is designed and arranged in a way that prevents some of the issues we've seen in developments that were approved years ago. Cannot just include inaccessible corners of the property that no one can get to or utilize. That being said, there are some sensitive areas on this property. We would expect that they be both preserved and if any use is designated for them, that it be a very passive recreation use.
Yeah, as you referenced, we've been down that road before where
Yes, sir.
Developer says, yeah, I'll give you some open space, but it was in the back of other people's backyard
Yes.
where no one could, you'd have to walk through somebody's yard to get to it. And I think we learned a lesson from that one.
We did, and
Also, excuse me,
Mhm.
one developer used the median of the road as open space. Some of you may remember that.
I remember it clearly.
You remember that one?
Infuriating.
Oh, gosh,
It was infuriating.
that one just about took the cake. So anything going forward with any of these projects, this open space, and the reason I'm referencing it is because it's not a square or a big rectangle. It's a narrow piece of property. I'm just hoping that that you and the developer figure out how to make the open space.
Yes. Those unfortunate incidences that you mentioned really led to some upgrades to the UDO language even back in the day when I was here to prevent that. It was, I guess, we had some flaws in the ordinance, loopholes that allowed for those things to happen, and we didn't want to see it happen again. This property is a long, narrow rectangle, but in the grand scheme of things, and I don't know that I have the width or the road frontage, you know, the dimension of the narrower portion available. Mr. Kuntz may know it.
It's got 559 feet.
Thank you. Thank you. So, not quite the same as you know, some of the more smaller narrow parcels where there really isn't much room to work with roads and other infrastructure and still get the lots in and still provide that access. I mean, obviously, we haven't seen a detailed plan. We expect we will see one if the rezoning is approved. And we'll look very closely to make sure that all those UDO provisions are abided by.
Would you approve or counsel any open space that abuts the highway?
Well, it potentially could, because it might provide a buffer and some distance from the lots from the busyness of the highway. I don't think that the UDO prohibits it from being located there, but that certainly wouldn't be the only location we would expect to see it.
The reason I brought that up is families that would have children or want to walk dogs, you don't want to do it beside 15501, if that's considered open space.
Absolutely. You also don't necessarily want to see the backyards of the lots right there. So there's an
Exactly.
opportunity to provide some open space there that might be undisturbed open space, perhaps save some of the vegetation in that area. Now, I'm saying what the opportunities are and the potentials are. I don't want that to be misconstrued as that's what we would require, or that's what the UDO requires. We could certainly encourage it. You make a very valid point. Some of the open space that we see provided in subdivisions is passive and some is active.
Yes.
And we've really, even the planning board has discussed whether there should be an undisturbed open space provision as well, which would really work in line with some of the areas on this property, for example. Do we necessarily, we love to see walking trails and other things within the development, but there might be a case to be made for just leaving some of the land alone, especially where there's concern about wildlife or the removal of too many of the natural features on a property.
Would property within the delineated wetland, would that be considered open space?
Wetlands, I'll have to look at the UDO.
I don't believe it is. There is some clauses in there for that, if I remember correctly, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, the open space has to be usable, doesn't it?
Well,
And-
not,
Some of it can be,
No, it doesn't?
some of it can be passive, some of
can
it
be
can be
passive,
active.
but
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if there's, and I don't want to use the wrong term, loophole, but there could be someone out there in the future that says, well, I'll just use wetland as the open
Not open,
space.
yeah, we don't want that, no.
And I don't know if we have anything in there to say yea or nay. Because if it's marshy or swampy or muddy,
Right.
I don't see how you could consider that open, well, it would be open space, but it's not usable.
Not usable, but not all of it has to be.
Okay.
The percentage has to be.
That might be what might fall into the undisturbed open space category. And you'll just have to bear with me a minute while I look that up. Features counted as open space do include environmentally sensitive lands, including wetlands and a list of others, provided that no more than 50% of a development's total open space may be located in such environmentally sensitive lands.
Thank you.
And so if they go over a certain number of homes, we have to have at least 2 entrances, is that correct, according to our UDO? There was a
Well,
provision we adopted a while back that talked about that.
And the General Assembly has had some things to say about that, so they've restricted our ability to require at the same thresholds, I think, as what we have in our UDO. But we'll certainly look at that more closely, and our fire marshal can weigh in on that as well.
I just don't want to
Well,
repeat
unless
it, I just don't want to repeat in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's
Our
old,
neighborhood either.
and
Yeah.
we've
So
got,
apparently it was
we
done
got like
before.
70 homes in one entrance. And we've had multiple fires where the road was completely closed for 5 to 6 hours. So, my other question is, the existing well house that's on site, I'm assuming that was for an old house that might have been on site? It's on the plat. So I didn't know if that could be a potential.
It's on the
Well,
survey.
It is on the survey, right in the
Okay.
middle of the property at the front. It says existing well house. I didn't know if that might be potential site.
Certainly could be. Let me see if I can find that.
I know we're looking. So I saw that and I was like, Now they put the front.
Yeah.
Road.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right there.
I do see that, and there's no residents on the property now that I know of, so there may have been at one time, or maybe even just a proposal for a home there where the well was constructed.
And this is a stream that comes across the property there.
I don't know how wet it is.
That's a
That's,
stream.
it could be.
It could be wet, it may not be.
I mean, that's a lot of, that's almost a fourth of the property considered sensitive.
Any other questions?
So we've gone through this conservative
The conservation subdivision.
conservation subdivision now with some other things. So let's say they don't want to pursue this. What is their other option? I mean, what is the worst-case scenario? Can they go in and just, they're not gonna be able to kind of go in and just build houses like every few feet? Because at least in Legacy, you know, there's trees between and backyards and areas because it is conservative.
So, one scenario that, obviously, an option that they have to them is just to build under the straight R20 district standards, which is a 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. They would still need to preserve the wetlands. That's one option. We can't require them to take the conservation subdivision
can't
option,
make it a
but it's
provision.
available to them.
Okay.
And that would be the other option, is that they have smaller lots, they're gonna, instead of 15% open space, they would need to set aside at least 30%. So under the R20 standards, it's 15%. With the wetlands being there, they would probably be forced to preserve more than that. But, they would either take that option or they'd take the conservation subdivision option, which would require at least 30% of the open space.
Anyone else have any questions before we let Mr. Coons speak? Anyone want to?
Do we have any public comment at all?
No, that would be,
Other than him, we don't have any other citizen
no.
comment area yet?
after
All right.
he speaks.
Okay.
Sure. And, this is a public hearing, so, anyone else from the board? Okay, Mr. Coons, would you like to speak?
Thank you again, Mayor, members of the board. It's good to be here tonight, and I am representing the applicant on this project. You've brought up some really good points, and hopefully I can answer some of the questions. The intention is to do a conservation subdivision here. I actually wish I had the plan here. We've actually worked with the town staff a little bit. They have seen at least the preliminary plans, and we are, a lot of the things that you've mentioned, preserving the wetlands, actually creating amenities out of the wetlands. So there's a nice pond in the back there, and the idea is to create an amenity area with a boardwalk and pavilion and other things in the back there to sit on the pond. But there are a lot of those elements throughout the development. As Pam mentioned, you're required to have 30% open space, and we're not looking at adding anything in the back. To your point, Mayor, the separation between 50 and 501, we want to provide a nice buffered area there, particularly for the residents. Very similar to what you see at Legacy Lakes, where you don't really see that many houses along 15501 in Legacy Lakes. We're doing a very similar thing here. The intention is that this development, while it's not part of Legacy Lakes, it's not part of the HOA, but it looks like Legacy Lakes with the open space, the lots, similar sized setbacks on the lots, and it would have a very similar character to the property just to the north in the R20 zoning. So back when we did went back, oh gosh, I think it was the early 2000s, 2005-ish, when we did Legacy Lakes. We sort of went through the same process on Legacy Lakes at the time. We went through the annexation, we went through the development. That was a conditional zoning, where this is just more of a straight zoning, because there is a conservation subdivision now that's available to developers, where Back then, the way to do it was a conditional district, so that's how we did Legacy Lakes, as a conditional district. But very similar lot sizes to what you see in Legacy. There are lots in Legacy all the way at 5,000 square feet. There are townhomes. It's a large mixture of different products throughout the development. So the intention here is to create something very similar to what you see in the majority of Legacy Lakes with 30% open space, preserving and having a lot of usable open space, because it's going to be a standalone project and it won't have the use of amenities of other neighborhoods. Having amenities for the residents here is something that's pretty important. So that's the goal here, and what they're trying to provide and what they're trying to do here. As Pam mentioned, we did meet with NCDOT. We've met with DOT. They will probably require a turn lane for the project, but other than that, we don't really meet their thresholds. And when they are thinking about developments, they have the number of units that are full build out for Legacy Lakes. They're taking that into account as they're thinking about their improvements as well. So this is just an addition to that, so as they go along. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have related to the project.
Mr. Coons, I'm looking at the map. You can see it on the screen up there. That would be I'm sure, well, all the lakes around here are spring-fed, right?
It is.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, that teal line down on the bottom of the picture doesn't, so that lake is not all in your property, correct?
Yeah, the downstream side of the lake isn't. If you saw up further, if you look into the Legacy Lakes project, there's a series of lakes as you come down through Legacy.
Yeah.
And this is really a continuation of those, and that lake is a continuation of the lakes that are in Legacy Lakes.
Do you know where the dam is?
I don't know 100%.
Is it on your property, on this property, or somebody else's
I
property?
believe it's on this property. I believe the
Yeah,
dam
well,
portion is on this property.
It doesn't appear in this picture right here.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where the dam is.
That is, it's not, I may get into the development business, but might want to check,
We'll
figure
have
out
to
who
identify
owns
that,
the dam.
for sure.
Because you could wind up like somewhere else in Moore County with no
Yeah.
water in the lake. Right?
That's right. That's right.
So all your amenities may go downstream.
That's right. That's right.
I've just seen the potential there that somebody could, the next door neighbor could say, I don't want the dam on my property.
That's right. That's right. That's correct.
So, anybody else with a question? Anyone else? Everybody good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, this is a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience that would like to? Where?
We have.
Yeah, here they are. I'm sorry. They were covered up.
Maybe it's this one.
No, that was it. Anyone that's in the audience that would like to come up and speak on this public hearing, the microphone's open. We'll be glad to accommodate you if anyone would like to come up. Anyone? Anyone? All right. If not, I'll close out the public hearing. Go to 2, then we go with 2, 3, and 4.
Can I make a comment before we vote? Is it okay? Are we getting ready to vote now? Is that the next stage? I just wanted to make a comment about, I appreciate what Mr. Kuntz said about the turn lane. I mean, that's important, because, but we do, as we've said on many occasions, we've got a lot of traffic on that road, being a 2-lane road. And the mayor and I both serve on a board, the SMPO board, and so we constantly bring this up, because that's a concern, especially since we've had some fatalities out there within the last year or so even. So that's just one thing that sometimes concerns me as not just a citizen, but as a resident of that area. With a school there, sportsplex, there's just a constant stream of traffic at certain times of the day, and it just seems like it's inevitable that we're going to have a 4-lane at some point in time. But I'll be glad when that traffic threshold has met if there's going to be continuing build-out in that area.
And you're correct. This is an issue that's coming before North Carolina DOT. From about Bernie Hardware down to where this property is, if it's built out, we're looking at close to 1,000 houses or more, because we don't have yet, we do not know how many houses might be potentially built on the Habitat land. And it's still a 2-lane road. And somewhere out in the future, this needs to be looked at by North Carolina Department of Transportation, because if it's built out with that number of houses, and practically all of them would have to exit onto 15501, there's no service roads. You're going to have, you could have from about Bernie Hardware down to this property, down to the Hope County line, you could have a potential of 1,000 houses. And just all of them dumping out onto 1551 is to me, is not viable. This is something that North Carolina DOT needs to take seriously. They can't wait till this starts getting built out, because they'll be behind the 8 ball if they're not careful. So I appreciate you bringing that up, but that is an issue that the Metropolitan Planning Organization needs to discuss probably after the first of the year, to see if there's any proposal from them to do anything about 1551. It's a dangerous road as it is, and if you don't even count the people that would be living on 1551, you have to take into account there is a steady stream coming in and going out every day, except maybe Sunday, from Scotland County and also Hope County, and they're using that road also. And it's not just Aberdeen residents, so a lot of people come up here to go to the hospital or go shopping or whatever.
Workforce too.
Yeah, and come up here to work, and so if you've been down there early in the mornings, and I know Commissioner Beavers has seen it, and I don't know if anybody else has, you go down there about what time? About 7 o'clock in the morning. It is a convoy of cars coming out of south, coming out of 15501, coming north into Aberdeen, and if Habitat has 100 acres, if that were to be built out, plus Legacy Lakes, plus the one above, the one on the other side of Bernie Hardware, plus this, we're looking at possibly 1,000 houses, if it were built out, possibly, on a 2-lane road, plus the Scotland County traffic. There's also a truck terminal on that road. There's also a school on that road.
It's also a soccer
Yeah, in the
complex.
soccer complex. It will not hold the traffic if all of this is built out, and that's just me talking. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I just can't see that many homes, that much traffic on a 2-lane road. So we will bring it up next, probably after the first of the year with the MPO, and kind of put them on notice that they need to start looking at this now, because I don't know how long it'll take to build out all these homes, but even if it was a 10-year build out, they can't wait to year number 9 to think about this. So anyway, that was my spiel on that. Okay, so where are we? You ready? Yeah, I've closed out the public hearing, did I not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm ready. The recommended motions, of course, at your discretion, which way they go, but we are providing those. There are 3 of those, and these are the first 2, and this second one provides some support for the proposal to be found to be reasonable in the public interest, and I don't expect anyone to read through all these in their motion if they choose to move in this direction, but they're certainly available there for you to reference if you'd like. And these came directly from the implementation section of the comp plan and from the UDO.
I make a motion that the proposed zoning map amendment ZA 2503 is consistent with the adopted plans of the town of Aberdeen. And while it is subject property is not included in the comprehensive development plan, but the plan's future land use map, several of the plans and objectives and strategies support the requested amendment.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. 4 to 1. Thank you. All right. Motion 2.
Based on information presented by the applicant, staff, and other interested parties, the proposed zoning map amendment ZA 2503 is reasonable and in the public interest. And that is based off of the statements as presented in our staff report.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The Board of Commissioners issues approval of the proposed zoning map amendment ZA 2503 and hereby adopts the enclosed statement of consistency do we have one already drafted?
There is one drafted, and it represents the very goals, objectives, and strategies that we went through in the presentation.
Okay, as stated.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Was that a,
Was that unanimous?
no, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that way we can close out B and go to C. Voluntary annexation AN dash 25-03 submitted by Colin Webster on behalf of Rosenor Land LLC for plus or minus 0.344 acres located east of US Highway 1551 and north of PD Road, and identified by PID 00992165. And this is also a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. This one is a little bit different from the annexation that you heard earlier tonight. In one way, that you will not be also holding a hearing on the rezoning this evening, although you will see that at a later time. And secondly, this property is in our ETJ. It is already zoned R10, and so the rezoning request that comes later includes this property and other adjoining properties. And just briefly, I'll show some maps. Mr. Matthew Blake is here representing Grosvenor and can add to anything that I may have missed or answer any questions that you may have. This is in a little bit different area. As a matter of fact, it's north of the property that we just discussed, north of the PD Road intersection. And again, this is the map that we create for the town clerk so that this annexation, if it is approved, can be recorded. And this is just a little bit different sense of where this is. So and you cannot see my cursor, I forget, but I think you can see 15501 running north-south, PD Road near the middle of your screen running east-west. There is, this shows two different colors, one for town proper or properties that are within our corporate boundary, and another for property that's in the ETJ. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, so maybe it's a little bit more clear, but the property that you see to the south of this that are the large tracts, those for the most part are currently being developed as a single-family residential subdivision approved some time ago, and by the same owner as the one representing this request. And so there's some properties to the north of that development and to the west of it that front 15501 that are being considered for development in a separate manner from what's already been approved. And that's why you'll be looking at a rezoning request later for this, but they did want to move forward with the annexation request this evening.
So to get this piece of property, you come off of Glasgow, is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know that
Or is
that's
it
what I'm
landlocked? I
saying.
mean,
It's
is there a road to this piece of property?
It does have an address, and what I was told by the Public Works Director was that it was assigned an address of Glasgow so that utilities could be run to the property because it was once occupied. It's no longer occupied. There is no actual road that fronts this property. There is you may be able to see it. No, that's not going to be helpful. There is an unopened right-of-way just to the north of it, but there's no actual road there. This is a paper street, as we sometimes refer to it, that makes connection with Debnan Street, which, I keep forgetting that you can't see my cursor when I do that. Runs east and west, this unopened street, then Debnan, it connects with Debnan, which runs north and south. And then even further to the east is Moore Street. I believe I have that right. So there's no actual road here, but just keep in mind, this is the annexation request. The rezoning request, which will come later, will probably make more sense out of this, but I'm also going to show you the survey that was created for both. So it may make some sense. This property is more or less contiguous with the other properties that will be coming to you for rezoning request.
Didn't we just annex other pieces close to this one last month? Isn't this in the same general location? Or is this further north?
Last
That was
month.
further north.
Not
It would've
less,
been last month.
Or,
I remember we did one, but I don't know if it's close to this or not.
okay.
at some point, there were some annexations that occurred, I believe, with the Kings Ford development,
Yeah.
which is the
Yeah.
larger parcels.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that was either before I came back or
Okay.
shortly
I knew it was
shortly
somewhere in there.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So this piece of property that they're asking to be annexed, the two on both sides are what, in the county? They're not annexed?
They are in our ETJ,
ETJ.
as is this one. And other properties in the area are also in the ETJ. This is the only one that is part of this future development proposal that we haven't seen yet, but that will be associated with the rezoning request. And you see where this arrow is pointing. This is the single parcel that is part of the rezoning request that is not currently in our corporate boundary. And that's why you're seeing an annexation request for just this parcel only.
What about the three pieces below it? Look like triangles. Two of them look like triangles.
Right, and those are also owned by the same entity, by Grosvenor Land LLC, and we expect those to be part of the rezoning request, but they're already in the corporate boundary, so they don't need to be annexed.
So those three small ones are annexed already?
Yes, as are others to the south that we expect
all
to.
that would be in our town.
Yeah, we have some, especially with really older parcels that were platted many years or decades ago. We actually have some interesting sort of, we call them donut holes, right there near PetSmart that are not in our jurisdiction. They're in our ETJ, but not in our corporate boundary. So these anomalies do exist. So this map shows you, this is the survey that will serve both for the rezoning request, which you'll see later, and this annexation request. But just this one parcel is up for your consideration this evening. And So I don't sound exactly like a broken record. This looks very much like what you saw just a bit ago with the other annexation request. And there are certain standards that you are expected to consider according to the UDO, and that is this list, relatively short list. Yes, we do have the signature of the owner of record for the property. This one is very similar to what we saw before. Public Works Director has advised that water and sewer services are available in this area, and there will be an analysis of the water and sewer models once we see what the actual development proposal is to ensure that we have adequate capacity. The debt obligations, we see no reason that they would exceed the anticipated revenues from the property if it were annexed. And then again, this public health, safety, and welfare, we have no reason to believe that that would be threatened by this annexation. And again, very simple, short and sweet. This is annexation only. You won't hear the rezoning request this evening, but you will see it at an upcoming meeting. And Mr. Blake is here if he can answer any questions or add anything.
This is a public hearing, and if someone would like to speak, please do. Anyone? It's a public hearing. No one? Okay. If not, I'll close out the public hearing. All right, and then go to number 2, down there. Consider approval of an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Aberdeen for annexation 25-03.
I make a motion to approve the voluntary annexation petition AN 25-03.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. D, consider approval of resolution 25-24 to provide temporary utility relief for residents impacted by the federal government shutdown.
Is that all we had to do for that? Pam?
I'm sorry, that
Was it?
was it. and
Okay,
it was-
awesome, okay,
That's
great.
all you need to hear from me this evening. Thank you.
Mayor, on this item with the utility disconnections, so really this is just anticipating a more extensive or longer federal budget shutdown. So we've done this in varying degrees in the past, did some during COVID and others. And as you can see in the memo and then actually in the language of the actual, so it's like a policy, and it's really included in the actual policy document, which is in the form of the resolution 25-24. So really, this is really to make sure those who are, suffering under the shutdown, and we got the list here: active duty military, reserve National Guard members, military dependents, and federal civilian employees furloughed or working without pay, federal contractors whose pay has been suspended. And of course, there is documentation and or identification required. And the relief we're asking for is to have no service disconnections for non-payment, late fees waived, flexible payment arrangements once things come back to adopted budget, and partial payments accepted at least for a period of time during the correction period without penalty. So there's no forgiving of fees or waiver of fees. It's just to give more of a kind of set time frame to repay. So that's the idea. And, I think there's been a few jurisdictions that have considered it. I know at least one other locally that's adopted a similar plan. And at the board, we just want to bring it to the board if you have an interest in doing this to help out, those citizens that are in this situation. We have gotten a few calls on what we're going to do, if anything, or can we do anything during this time frame.
So you have heard from the public that they feel like
We
this
have.
is going to keep them from being able to pay their water and light?
We have.
Or, I mean, water.
We've gotten calls and people seemed concerned. As I heard and read, as we were putting this together, I think what I saw is that the federal, especially the military, they get paid roughly on the 15th and 30th of each month. The 15th payment of October was made, as I understand it. The 30th, I don't know how that's
Right,
gonna
because
work
I heard
out.
on the news that the military would be paid, so I
On
didn't
the
know.
30th?
I just heard the president say the military would get their pay, so I didn't know that, that would be
Yeah.
a-
Let's wait till
a
the
daily-
30th and see how that works
a
out.
daily determination, yeah.
I don't know, I haven't heard that, but it could be out there, but I haven't heard that.
And that's great to help anybody in a hardship situation. I don't, disagree with that. But how will you determine which people it's going to affect? Do they have to verify
Yeah, active
that they are a
duty.
military?
It's documented in there on what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to have an
provide
ID.
military.
Have to have a
Have to show their
military
card to
ID.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yep.
see that now,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
And we've done this before in the past. I think it was COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already, so this is not
Right, I
something
remember we
that
did
the
that
town
before,
hasn't
yeah.
done before. And if you check, in Moore County, there, I think is at least one or maybe two that other communities have done this
Already
already.
done it. Mm.
Have already done it.
Yeah, they already did.
So, this is a good thing, because, we don't know how long this will last, and,
Right.
I've got, neighbors that have a family member that relies on this check and has not been paid, federal employees, so, you can imagine all of a sudden one day you don't have a check, and you still got a family. So I think this is a good idea.
And Mayor, the way this is set up, there are different ways to do it. Is that technically this would expire, after 30 days, unless extended by the Board of Commissioners. So that gave us the ability. And when it expires, that still means they have, then those provisions about when to repay and how much time there is kick in. So, but again, if nothing's changed and it's 30 days later, we're at another meeting, you can extend it and we can put it on the agenda to extend it. So instead of having it where you take affirmative action, we thought it better to sunset automatically unless extended.
Right.
Sure. All right.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 25-24 to provide temporary utility relief for residents impacted by the federal government shutdown.
Second.
I second.
Motion and a second in about 3 seconds.
Three
Uh,
seconds.
Literally and figuratively. How about that? Okay. Any discussion from the board? Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, close out D, go to E. Consider authorize the town manager, assistant town managers, authorize signers of all FEMA-related transactions.
So Mayor, this is really just to allow the assistant manager and myself to sign the numerous documents as they come up with FEMA. And obviously, if there's any, policy decision, we're not going to sign that. We'll bring it back to the board. But there's a lot of paperwork, applications, different requests that we've got to make in a timely manner. But of course, we'll keep the board informed of what the request is. And remember, this money goes one way. It comes to us. So we won't be, obligating the town to do anything. But most of this, if not all of the FEMA money, it requires typically our expenditures up front, and then we're reimbursed by FEMA. That's just the way they do that. So obviously, we'll keep you informed. But really, this is really more the nitty-gritty application paperwork to be signed, and, to move forward. So again, really just is more of a administrative kind of role that we're performing here. And just want to make sure it's clear, because FEMA will ask who's the authorized signatories, for their documents, and we just need to have something to show them. And this will speed up things a good bit.
Anybody?
I'll make a motion to, where are we?
A second.
Authorize the town manager and assistant town manager to authorize signers for the FEMA-related transactions.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, down to number 8, other business. I know you have, did you want to do this after we leave, or do it at other business?
Well, if y'all have other business, maybe at the end of that, if there's other things to talk about, we could do that first, and then we can talk about the decor at the end, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyone with other business? We're getting into the holiday season, so everybody be aware of what's gonna be out there.
And the weekend coming up is the Malcolm Blue rescheduled
Mhm.
festival
Yes.
that was postponed due to rain.
If
This
you-
Saturday.
If you had ridden by the following, you never saw so many children.
That place was packed.
It was running over with families out there with children. It was a great event. And if you happen to be downtown, was it Saturday? If you missed an event, if you did not go to the strongman contest, that was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
When the gentleman was here proposing it, which we agreed to let him do it, I asked if he had an old man's section, and he didn't take me seriously, but I asked him again when we got down there. I said, where can we sign up, where the old men can sign up for some of this? I'm gonna tell you, if you had not been there, you would not believe what these guys were doing. These men and women, the women were just as strong as the men were. They were picking up 250-pound kegs with no handles and having to walk with them to a bar. Then they had to push it over the bar. And I'm telling you, it was, I mean, that was just part of it. I mean, they were carrying weights around. They had some of them laid on the ground and pulled these military-type vehicles with a rope. It went on all day. And I talked to the two gentlemen that were putting this thing on or sponsoring it, whatever, and they were very appreciative. Matter of fact, they thanked, not because I was there, but they had thanked the town of Aberdeen numerous times for letting them do this. And then I told them to please come back if you want to do it again. We'll be glad to have you come back. It was a wholesome thing because there were families down there were children down there. If you didn't see it, you would not believe what was going on. These guys and girls were phenomenal. And there were people that traveled there. I talked to one of the police officers that were down there. He said there were two families that had traveled from Washington State to come do this. I mean, it's a national thing. These strongman contests are a lot of places. But there were people from out of town, other states that came, and of course they ate in our restaurants. Some of them stayed in our hotels and maybe shopped in some of the stores. So it was a plus for everybody. But if you didn't see it, you missed it. And it's online. If you go on your computer, you can see where they're posting these pictures. I think, Paul, you had some pictures, didn't you? If you want to see what was going on, you can go online and see what happened down there. But it was a great day downtown. Any other business? Anyone? Anybody?
So, under your manager's report, you should have a document that looks like this with a bunch of lights on it. So, we've got a catalog with, these are pendant lights, which is what those are technically identified as, and we need to replace those. The date of them here. And so we were trying to get something that would fit, we've got the coverage, and that number one that was posted at one point, that color was the popular selection by, I think, everyone who looked at it basically. It was on the far left of, as it was displayed the last couple of weeks. And so this is another opportunity. We're also going to get a lot of this cleaned up on the ceiling, some repainted in the lines that are going to be between the soundboards that are going to go up. So during that time, we'd also like to take a stab at replacing these lights with lights that actually,
Put out light.
have
Put out
light
some
in them.
lights.
Really? So there's no, I mean, you see there's several. We just try to narrow it down to a couple of different styles. The only thing I'd say that we used as a guiding factor was to have, a light fixture that had more than one bulb. At least had 2, 3, or 4. Some had 4 or 5, I think. And it's in the document. You can see it. It kind of says, like the first one there, says 4 150-watt bulbs, and they've all got some description of that. Again, not really tied to any of them. The only thing I'd say is, you know, given the finishes in the room as we speak, we were trying to pick something that was either, you know, like a silver kind of metal part, maybe a black, would probably fit in with the wood. But if you look at the silver there, but not go with brass or something like that, because I think it would clash with the metal fixtures that are in here. There aren't many. I think you could get away with a black finish on the fixture, and it would fit in with the wood and stuff if you like that better. And most of these come in either that stainless steel or brushed nickel kind of finish. So again, if you see something else you like or want to keep looking, I mean, we just need some direction on these. The prices are not in this. We have to call and get a price on each of these, but we think they're all going to be about the same price range, give or take a little bit, but we can vet that if the board gives us a little more direction. So, Mayor, that's all I have. I'm going to let you pick now.
Not me.
I like number 1.
Well,
So,
and they are not in order of preference. They're just.
No,
listed
I know
just
that. I'm
separately.
picking, I like number 1.
Do you
I
want-
actually looked it up on my phone so I could actually see what the fixture
yeah?
looked like.
do you want us to do that tonight or think about it?
Phil, how soon do you need an answer on the lights?
Sometime between now and 8:30.
In other words, an answer tonight.
I
So we
like
can get
one,
prices.
one and
Anna,
four.
Anna, did you get that?
I think the second page might produce more light if this is not enclosed. I like the first one because it's pretty,
Open.
but
And it's open on the
we've got to
top.
be able to have more light shining down. So, I mean, just looking at them, I like the second one. I like the first one he mentioned because of its, but is it open? Did you?
Yeah, it's open. It's open, it's, see, the top of it's open.
I like-
Glass
Yeah,
door
but
on
this
the
is,
bottom.
but this is opaque, so this would be
I
hard
like
for the
the
light to
second
shine
one, too.
through, is what I'm thinking. It looks pretty at a
Well,
house. That's the way
these are-
mine are in my house.
These are closed
But-
in.
I don't like that one.
But one is brass.
I like the second one.
Yeah, I can't tell. I thought,
You like the second one?
can you see,
I'm fine. I mean,
because it looks.
I just want the
like
most
brass
light
in
to
this one,
penetrate,
but I
that's
think
all.
He's got the real book. Hey,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, if it's got NI,
I like,
it's the,
I
it's
think
the
green here
brass,
really
it's
won't
the
be an
brushed
issue
nickel if
'cause
it's
it
got
doesn't
NI
have to be
after
as
it.
pretty as some of
Okay,
the
all right.
others.
Yeah.
So is that what you
They
looked it up?
show the brass one because that's what they want you to buy, but the NI, that's what that stands for.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
and
see,
the
is
picture
that
will
a
close
glow
in.
or is that
You can
light?
see the.
Is that gonna be
Oh, I
light?
see the
What I'm
NI.
saying is that,
Well, then that's gonna be the same thing then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the other one, the number 1,
That looks brighter than the rest of it.
where's number 1? Number 1 said this is open at the top. And
Yeah, but
it's
it's
just
not
got a frosted glass. Here it is.
We don't want it to be too
Yeah,
ornate
but I
or
thought
it'll,
those in my
it'll
house.
show time after a while, you know,
It's got
or era. Since you haven't been changed in 60 years.
I mean, it's pretty. I like it for my house, but for here, I think this would be better. It's, that's open, isn't it?
Is it?
I know it's got 3 light bulbs in. You want me to walk you over there?
Just whichever one to show the most light, I'm okay with it. Use his judgment. They all are pretty.
We believe that it's like process now.
That's
Y'all take
different.
number 3 and I come back and they say it's $700 per.
That's fine.
Is this one in? You got, oh, this one is better. It's got, you know, we need to be able to see.
Where is this one on there? In there?
Number 2 is right.
That's 4, 5, 3. Like that.
Where?
I don't know what it looks like now.
Well, this one gives out more light.
I would think so, yeah.
I think that.
I like that one.
I do too.
I like,
That's right on their website.
I like number two.
Giving out light.
Number 2.
That was number 3. Yeah. Yes.
But So that one,
Number 2 is good.
I think these are too ornate here.
I said 2.
All right,
And Ron said 2.
whatever she said, works for me.
Number 2. Uh-huh.
Two, dude.
And it's just got the wattage. I think you can get whichever, either one, I think, but I'm not sure.
You got 4 2, okay.
so far, number two is the cheapest one.
I assume you could, because, you know, a lot of fixtures you can't put in LED before, but, you know, just a regular light as opposed to like a street light, which has got to turn that this time.
Makes you happy, doesn't it?
So, yeah, I hope they are.
I'm gonna stay set my phone on.
So number three,
I guess I didn't hear
yeah,
You're outnumbered, Brian.
I don't care.
I'm like you, I just want the most light.
I was just looking up the prices.
I just misunderstood what she said. If I knew what I was doing. I just didn't, I thought she was gonna make a positive
Yeah, 368,
motion, but she didn't.
638, 358. Yeah, two's fine. Two's fine. I'll go with two.
What was the price?
Yeah, well, did she say something?
Yeah, man, we get them here.
They wanted to.
Yeah, that one was
Oh, you got it here.
What kind of that?
And everybody liked it.
That was
Oh, that's good. Really? Cool. Hey, do you know if they're, if you get it?
Where'd the mayor go?
I'm
Mayor,
probably gonna talk
you gonna
to
dismiss us?
We haven't
We haven't
adjourned.
adjourned yet.
Tim was asking us a question. I was kind of like, I assumed it would be, but, because there was some folks that.
I think the consensus was number two.
Okay, we need a
So-
motion for that.
Paul, do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, if you just, well, it's just someone to state for the record, consensus is choice number 2 as presented, something like that. would be fine.
I make a motion that we select choice number 2 for the lighting.
I second.
All right.
All in
We
favor?
got a vote, don't we?
Yeah, there was a motion and a
Yes.
second for light fixture. Is it that one?
Yes.
Number 2.
Selection number 2.
This one.
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there you go. Got it. Okay, now,
No
We're-
problem, we're gonna try to get started on it as quick as possible. Everything, we've got the painting contractor, you guys lined up, get in here, and the acoustical guy will give us a word in the morning, so. Weather permitting.
now we're down to number 9, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And I second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?